If you believe a mother's love is unconditional, then listen carefully to my story. I went to my daughter's house for Thanksgiving. She opened the door, looked at me from head to toe, and said in a cold voice, "Who invited you? This dinner is for family only." I walked away without saying a word. 1 week later, I removed her name from my will, and when she found out, everything changed. Hello, everyone. My name is Clara. Before I begin, please like this video and comment where you're watching from. It helps me know my story is reaching someone out there. What I'm about to share is not just a story of betrayal. It's the story of a mother's silent revenge. My daughter was my entire world. For 68 years, I believed in one simple truth: family is everything. After my husband Robert passed away 12 years ago, my daughter Jennifer became my entire world. Her happiness was my purpose. I paid for her college education. I spent my life savings on her wedding. I bought gifts for her children every holiday. Whenever she needed a babysitter, I dropped everything and rushed to help. Whenever they needed money, I gave it without hesitation. Because that's what mothers do. Or at least, that's what I believed. Jennifer used to call me every Sunday. We had weekly family dinners, we laughed together, we shared everything. But 6 months before Thanksgiving, things began to change. Her calls became shorter, her voice sounded distant, her messages became cold and formal. Whenever I asked to visit, there was always an excuse. "Mom, we're busy. The kids have activities. Maybe next week." I kept telling myself young families are busy, but deep inside, something felt wrong. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I sent her a message. "Sweetheart, what should I bring for dinner?" Her reply came 2 days later. "We'll let you know." No warmth, no affection, no love, just a cold sentence. That night, I could not sleep. But I convinced myself everything would be fine because family always works things out, right? On Thanksgiving morning, I woke up early. I cooked her favorite sweet potato casserole. I bought new clothes for my grandchildren. I even purchased an expensive gift for my son-in-law. My hands trembled slightly as I prepared everything, but my heart was full of hope. A mother always hopes. I arrived at her house at 2 p.m. The driveway was full of cars. I could hear laughter from inside. Everyone was celebrating. My heart felt warm. This will be a beautiful family gathering, I thought. I rang the doorbell. The door opened, and there stood my daughter. But her eyes held no love, only cold distance. "Mom, what are you doing here?" she asked. Her words struck me like a knife. I thought, "Thanksgiving dinner?" I said softly. Then she said something I will never forget. "Who invited you? This dinner is for family only." For a moment, I thought I misunderstood, but she repeated it. "Please leave. You're making this awkward." Behind her, I saw guests sitting at the table. Her in-laws, her friends, everyone, except one person belonged nowhere there. Me. I stood there holding the warm casserole dish, the gift bag cut into my wrist. Inside, my grandchildren were laughing, and I stood like a stranger at my own daughter's door. I could have argued, I could have cried, I could have forced my way inside, but my dignity stopped me. I quietly placed the dish and gifts on her porch, and I walked away. She closed the door behind me, as if I had never existed. That night, I sat alone in my quiet house. The only sound was the ticking of the clock, and one sentence echoed endlessly in my mind. "Who invited you, old woman?" Old woman, hearing that from your own child breaks something inside you. But I did not cry. Instead, I picked up my phone. and I called my lawyer. "I need to see you tomorrow," I said. "I want to change my will." That night, my daughter removed me from her family. She didn't know. I removed her from my life. The morning after Thanksgiving, I did something my daughter never expected. I didn't call her. I didn't cry. I didn't beg for answers. Instead, I walked into my lawyer's office, and that decision changed everything. Mr. Howard had been my family's lawyer for over 20 years. He handled my husband's estate after Robert passed away. He knew my daughter Jennifer since she was a child. When I entered his office that morning, he immediately noticed something different about me. "Clara, is everything all right?" he asked gently. I sat down slowly. My hands were steady. My voice calm. "I want to remove my daughter from my will." He stared at me in disbelief. "Are you sure? Jennifer is your only child." I nodded. "For the first time in my life, I'm absolutely sure." He hesitated. "May I ask what happened?" For a moment, my chest tightened, but I told him everything. The door, her words, her rejection. When I finished speaking, silence filled the room. Mr. Howard sighed deeply. "I never imagined Jennifer would treat you this way." Neither did I. You see, Jennifer believed something that wasn't true. She thought she already owned everything: my house, my savings, my investments, because for years she treated my future as her inheritance. What she didn't know was this: I had more than she ever imagined. After my husband's death, I quietly invested our savings. I lived simply, I spent little, I planned carefully. Over 12 years, my wealth had grown significantly, and Jennifer had no idea. That morning, I made 3 changes. I removed her completely from my will. I transferred my house into a trust. I chose new beneficiaries, people who showed me kindness, people who treated me with respect, not because they expected something, but because they cared. When I signed the papers, I felt something strange. Not anger, not revenge. Relief. For 7 days, Jennifer didn't contact me. No apology, no explanation, nothing. Then suddenly, my phone rang. Her name appeared on the screen. I answered calmly. Her voice sounded unusually sweet. "Hi, Mom. We missed you at Thanksgiving." Missed me? The same person who told me I wasn't family. She continued speaking quickly. "The kids want to see you. When can you visit?" Her sudden kindness felt unnatural, almost rehearsed. But I agreed to visit the following Sunday. I wanted to understand something. Why the sudden change? When I arrived at her house, she welcomed me warmly. Too warmly. She hugged me tightly, she smiled constantly, she offered tea and cake. Her behavior felt artificial, like an actress performing a role. Then I noticed something strange. Her husband Mark kept watching me carefully, whispering to Jennifer, checking his phone repeatedly. They were waiting for something, or someone. After a few minutes, Jennifer finally spoke. "Mom, have you updated your will recently?" There it was, the real reason for her sudden kindness. I looked at her quietly. "Why do you ask?" She forced a small laugh. "Oh, nothing. We were just discussing future planning." Future planning, meaning my death. That moment confirmed everything. I was not her mother. I was her future money. For 68 years, my heart had been soft, forgiving, giving, endlessly loving. But that day, something inside me froze.
I smiled politely. No, dear, everything is taken care of. Which was true, just not in the way she expected. As I prepared to leave, I overheard something. Jennifer and Mark were speaking in the kitchen. They thought I couldn't hear. Mark whispered, "If your mother sells her house, we can finally pay our debts." Jennifer replied quietly, "She will. Everything will be ours eventually." Eventually. They were waiting for my death, planning their future with my money. I left their house feeling lighter because now I knew the truth, and truth gives power. That week, I made another decision. I stopped living for my daughter. I began living for myself. I joined a community center. I started volunteering. I met new people who valued my presence. For the first time in years, I felt respected, seen, alive. One afternoon at the community center, I met someone special, a young single mother named Emily. She struggled to support her 2 children, yet she showed me more kindness in 1 week than my daughter had shown me in years. She never asked for money, she simply cared. And slowly, she became the family I never expected. 2 months later, something happened that shocked my daughter. She learned about changes I'd made, not directly, but through someone she trusted. And when she found out, her reaction was explosive. She called me screaming, "How could you do this to me?" But she didn't yet know the full truth. And what she discovers next will change her life forever.
Jennifer found out. Not everything, but enough to panic. And when she called me that night, I heard something in her voice I had never heard before. Fear. It was nearly 9 p.m. when my phone rang. Her name flashed across the screen. I answered calmly. "Hello, Jennifer." Her voice exploded immediately. "How could you do this to me?" No greeting, no concern, no explanation, just accusation. I spoke quietly. "I don't understand what you mean." "Oh, don't pretend," she snapped. "I know you changed something. I know you moved to the house." My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake, because for the first time, I was prepared. I sat down slowly in my living room chair. "Jennifer," I said gently, "you told me I wasn't family." Silence. A heavy, uncomfortable silence. Then she laughed nervously. "You misunderstood what I meant that day." Misunderstood. The words cut deeper than the original insult. "You closed the door in my face," I said quietly. "You said Thanksgiving was for family only." Her tone softened immediately. "Oh, Mom, you're being dramatic. We were stressed that day." Stressed, as if cruelty were simply inconvenience. Then her voice shifted. Careful, calculating. "You've always said everything would come to me one day," she continued. There it was. Not love, not regret. Ownership. I responded calmly. "My belongings are my responsibility." Her breathing became heavier. "So you admit it, you changed the will?" I didn't answer directly, and that silence terrified her more than any confession. Her sweetness disappeared instantly. "How could you betray your own daughter?" she shouted. Betray. The irony almost made me smile. "For years I supported you. I took care of you." I closed my eyes. Memories flooded back. The ignored calls, the forgotten birthdays, the holidays spent alone. Support. Care? No, only expectation. Something inside me finally broke free. For 68 years, I had avoided conflict. I had stayed quiet, forgiven easily, but not anymore. "You didn't take care of me," I said firmly. "You tolerated me." Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. I continued. You visited when you needed something. You called when it benefited you, and you erased me when I refused to give. My voice remained calm, but every word carried truth. Jennifer began crying, loud, dramatic, the kind of crying meant to control the conversation. I can't believe my own daughter is attacking me. But I did not comfort her. I simply listened. For years, this had been her pattern: guilt, manipulation, victimhood. Whenever confronted, she became the wounded one, and I always apologized. Until now. When her crying slowed, she spoke again. So what now? You're giving everything to strangers? The word strangers revealed everything. To her, kindness without benefit made no sense. Yes, I answered honestly. I choose people who choose me. She sounded disgusted. That ridiculous community center woman, that single mother? Her tone was filled with contempt. But she didn't understand. Emily never asked for anything. She simply showed kindness, something Jennifer had forgotten long ago. Jennifer's voice turned cold. You're making a mistake, Mom. A warning, not concern. I recognized the tone. It was the same tone she used with employees in her company. Control through intimidation. I answered peacefully. My decisions are final. She whispered something to someone near her, then returned to the phone. We'll talk about this in person. We, not her, we. That meant Mark was involved. 2 days later, my doorbell rang. Jennifer and Mark stood outside, unannounced, uninvited, smiling too brightly. I welcomed them politely. We sat in the living room. Jennifer immediately began speaking. Mom, we came because we love you. Love. The word felt unfamiliar coming from her. She brought flowers. She hugged me repeatedly. She complimented my house. Everything felt rehearsed, artificial, a performance. Then Mark spoke for the first time. Clara, we're worried about you. Worried. He explained carefully. Older people sometimes make financial decisions under outside influence. Outside influence. Meaning Emily. Meaning anyone except them. Jennifer reached for my hand. We just want to protect you. Protect me. From kindness. From independence. From thinking for myself. She placed documents on the table. Legal forms. Power of attorney papers. They wanted control. Complete control. I looked at the papers quietly, then pushed them back. No. One word. Clear. Final. Jennifer's face hardened instantly. The warmth vanished. You don't understand what you're doing, she said sharply. I understand perfectly. I stood slowly. You believed my life belonged to you. You believed my work, my home, my future were already yours. My voice remained steady, but I am still alive. The room fell silent. Jennifer slammed her hand on the table. This is ridiculous, after everything I've done for you. Again, the same words. Again, the same lie. But this time, I didn't accept it. You shut me out, I reminded her quietly. You chose your comfort over your mother. Tears filled her eyes, but they were tears of anger, not regret. Mark pulled her toward the door. We'll talk about this again, he said calmly. A warning, a promise, a threat. When the door closed behind them, the house became silent again. But something had changed. I was no longer afraid. Blood does not guarantee love. Family does not guarantee loyalty. And silence only protects those who harm us. But I also knew something else. Jennifer would not give up easily. Because when money becomes expectation, loss becomes war. And the war was only beginning. But before the story moves forward, tell me something. Where are you watching from? Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story is reaching. And if you've ever been treated like you didn't belong in your own family, stay with me, because what happened next changed everything. After Jennifer and Mark left my house that afternoon, everything became strangely quiet. Too quiet. No phone calls, no messages, no dramatic confrontations. Just silence. And silence, I've learned, is rarely peaceful. Sometimes it's preparation. For 3 days, nothing happened. I went about my routine, morning tea, a walk through the neighborhood, volunteering at the community center with Emily. But even during simple moments, I felt watched. On the 4th morning, a certified letter arrived, official envelope, legal markings. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it. Inside was a notice, a formal challenge to my mental competence, filed by my own daughter. Jennifer was claiming I was no longer capable of managing my finances. She requested court supervision over my estate. She wanted control of everything: my home, my savings, my decisions, my life. I sat down slowly, not shocked, just disappointed, because deep down, I had expected this. The letter described me as emotionally unstable, easily manipulated, under outside influence. Outside influence. That phrase again. To Jennifer, independence meant manipulation. Choice meant weakness. Freedom meant danger, unless she controlled it. But something surprising happened. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. Instead, I felt clarity. Months earlier, long before Thanksgiving, I had prepared. Michael had always told me, hope for love, prepare for truth. So I had quietly documented everything. Every conversation, every message, every visit. Dates, times, details. Proof. And now, that preparation would protect me. I called Mr. Reynolds, my attorney. He listened carefully. Then he sighed. "This is common in inheritance disputes," he explained. "They want legal authority over your assets." "Can they succeed?" I asked. "Not if you're prepared," he said calmly. And I was. The court required a psychological evaluation. Jennifer had forced me to prove my own sanity. Imagine that. After raising her, after sacrificing everything, I now had to prove I could think. The examination lasted 3 hours. Memory tests, cognitive assessments, financial reasoning questions. I answered every one calmly, clearly, confidently. The doctor smiled afterwards. "Mrs. Hayes, your cognitive ability is excellent." I already knew, but hearing it felt like victory. 2 weeks later, we stood in court. Jennifer avoided my eyes. Mark spoke with their lawyer in whispers. They looked confident, certain, as if my life were already theirs. The judge reviewed the medical report. Clear mind, full competence, independent decision-making. Case dismissed. Just like that. Jennifer's face turned pale. Her plan had failed. Publicly. Completely. Outside the courtroom, she confronted me. "You embarrassed me," she hissed. Embarrassed. Not sorry, not ashamed, just humiliated that she lost. "I forced me to defend myself," I replied quietly. Her eyes burned with anger. "You're being manipulated by strangers." Again, that word. Strangers. People who showed kindness without expecting reward. While she fought for control, I was building something new. More time at the community center, more friendships, more purpose. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Emily visited often. We shared meals, we laughed, we talked about life. She never asked about money, never asked about inheritance. She simply cared. And that confused Jennifer, because genuine care cannot be controlled. One evening, while reviewing my financial records with my attorney, we discovered something disturbing. Several months earlier, Jennifer had attempted to access my accounts, unauthorized, repeatedly. Bank logs showed multiple failed login attempts, requests for information, inquiries about my assets, all traced back to her office. My heart sank. She hadn't just expected my estate, she had already tried to take it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room thinking, not about revenge, not about punishment, but about boundaries. Real boundaries. For years, I had tolerated disrespect, excused cruelty, forgiven manipulation, because she was my daughter. But motherhood does not require surrender. And in that moment, I made a final decision. The next morning, I visited my attorney. We updated everything: irrevocable trust arrangements, legal protections, charitable allocations, clear documentation. No loopholes, no future claims, no control for Jennifer. Ever. It wasn't revenge. It was protection. Protection of my life, my dignity, my legacy. She learned about the changes within days, and this time, her reaction was explosive. She stormed into my house without warning. "How dare you cut me out completely?" Her voice echoed through the hallway. I remained calm. "You removed yourself," I answered. Her face twisted with anger. "You're destroying this family." Family? The word sounded hollow. "I told you you weren't family. You made that choice." She stared at me as if seeing a stranger, because I was no longer the quiet mother she controlled. Her voice softened suddenly. Manipulation, again. "You're all I have, Mom." But her eyes moved around the house, calculating, measuring, valuing. "Please leave," I said gently. She froze. "You're choosing them over me?" "I'm choosing myself." The words surprised me even, but they felt right. She left without another word, and that silence felt different. Not heavy, not fearful, but freeing. Weeks passed. Life became calmer. I focused on volunteering, reading, healing. For the first time in years, there was peace. But peace rarely lasts when someone believes something belongs to them, and Jennifer still believed everything was hers. She had one more trick left, something no mother could ever imagine, something cruel, calculated, and devastating. Before we continue, before the story moves forward, tell me honestly, have you ever been hurt by someone you trusted completely? Because what Jennifer did next wasn't just betrayal, it was destruction. The call that changed everything. 3 weeks after Jennifer stormed out of my house, I received a phone call from my bank. At first, the manager sounded unusually careful. "Mrs. Hayes," he said, "we need to verify a large withdrawal request." Large withdrawal? I hadn't made any request. My hands grew cold. "How large?" I asked. The number he spoke made my heart stop. Nearly half of my liquid savings. Gone. Someone had attempted to transfer my funds using legal authorization. Power of attorney documents. Signed. Notarized. Official. But completely false. My lawyer reviewed them immediately. The signature looked like mine, but it wasn't. The witness information traced back to one person, Jennifer. The room felt smaller, harder to breathe. This wasn't misunderstanding. This wasn't greed. This was calculated theft. The moment something inside me changed. For the first time in my life, I stopped thinking like a mother and started thinking like a survivor. There is a quiet moment when love finally breaks. No screaming, no tears, just clarity. That moment had arrived. The investigation begins. The bank launched a fraud investigation. Security footage, digital records, witness verification. Everything pointed toward Jennifer and Mark. They had planned everything carefully. Or so they believed. But they underestimated something. I had already secured my accounts months earlier. Multi-step verification, account alerts, transaction blocks. Because deep down, I knew this day might come. The transfer had been stopped in time, but the intention was undeniable. A choice no mother wants to make. My lawyer asked the question gently. Do you want to press charges? The words hung heavy in the air. Press charges? Against my own daughter? I looked at Michael's photograph on the shelf. He always believed in accountability, in truth, in dignity. And in that moment, I chose justice. The consequences begin. The case moved quickly. Forgery, attempted fraud, financial exploitation, serious charges. Jennifer called me repeatedly, crying, begging, threatening, accusing. Every emotion except responsibility. You're ruining my life, she screamed over the phone. I answered quietly, you made your choices, and I ended the call. Do not misunderstand. I did not feel victory. I felt grief, real grief, because the child I raised seemed gone, replaced by someone driven only by entitlement. But grief and strength can exist together, and mine grew stronger every day. Meanwhile, my world continued expanding. The community center launched new programs. I began mentoring older women facing similar struggles, women abandoned by families, ignored, controlled, silenced. For the first time, my pain had purpose. My experience became protection for others. Emily stood beside me throughout everything. Quiet support, steady kindness, no expectations, no manipulation, just presence. Then, something unexpected happened. While reviewing old family records for the legal case, my lawyer discovered something buried decades deep. A document, a sealed file, something Michael had arranged years before his death, a private letter, addressed to me, to be opened only if family conflict threatened my safety. My hands trembled as I read it. Michael had seen Jennifer's behavior long ago. He had anticipated everything. Her entitlement, her manipulation, her obsession with inheritance. And he created a safeguard, a powerful one. Hidden within our estate structure was a clause. If any beneficiary attempted financial exploitation, they would be permanently disqualified from receiving anything, automatically, legally, irreversibly. Jennifer didn't just risk losing my trust, she eliminated herself completely by her own actions. I closed the letter slowly. Michael had protected me even after death, and now his final plan would take effect. When Jennifer's lawyer received notice of the clause, everything changed. Her calls became desperate, panicked, terrified. She appeared at my house again, but this time she looked different. Not angry, not confident, afraid. You can't do this, she whispered. It's already done, I replied. For the first time, she faced something she had never experienced before. Real consequences. No control, no manipulation, no escape. She broke down crying, but the tears felt different. Not sorrow, loss. Loss of control, loss of inheritance, loss of power. And I finally understood. She had never feared losing me, only losing what I owned. That evening, I sat alone, thinking about motherhood, about love, about boundaries. Love without respect becomes imprisonment, and forgiveness without change becomes permission. I would offer neither anymore. Instead of anger, I chose something greater: legacy, impact, protection for others. I began planning something meaningful, something lasting, something that would transform my life's work into hope. A foundation, a place helping elderly people abandoned by family, a future built from pain, and Jennifer would never control it. Because just when I believed everything had settled, a truth surfaced, a secret Jennifer had hidden for years, something that would shake everything I believed about my family. Let me ask you something, because what I discovered next did not just explain Jennifer's hatred, it changed everything I believed about my family. 2 days after Jennifer learned about the inheritance clause, my lawyer requested a private meeting. His voice was unusually serious. "There's something you need to see," he said. He placed an old file on the table: worn edges, faded ink, medical records, adoption documentation, legal correspondence from over 30 years ago. My heart began to pound because the name written there was Jennifer's. Jennifer was not my biological daughter. The words echoed in my mind: not biological, not mine by birth, but mine by love. I had known this, of course I had, but what I didn't know was the truth Jennifer had discovered years earlier, a truth someone had hidden from me. Inside the file was a private letter, written by Michael, never delivered to me. Years before his death, Jennifer had secretly searched for her birth records. She discovered she had been adopted, but what shattered her completely was who her biological mother was: a woman from Michael's past, a brief relationship before our marriage. Jennifer was his child, but not mine. Michael had convinced me the adoption was anonymous, a child in need, a family built from compassion, but the truth was far more complicated. Jennifer had learned everything, and she believed I had stolen her father from her real mother. Suddenly, memories returned. Her distant behavior, her coldness, her resentment, the constant need to compete for Michael's attention. She had grown up believing I was the reason her real family was destroyed, and she never told me, not once. Instead, she built years of silent anger, years of emotional distance, years of hidden resentment. The betrayal I experienced was born from a wound she carried alone. I sat in silence, tears falling without sound. All those years, I believed she rejected my love, but perhaps she never trusted it. A child shaped by misunderstanding, a mother blinded by ignorance, a family built on hidden truths. But pain does not excuse cruelty, and suffering does not justify destruction. My lawyer spoke carefully. She had reasons for anger, he said, but she made her choices. Yes, she had suffered, but she chose manipulation. She chose greed. She chose betrayal. Understanding her pain did not erase my right to protect myself, and for the first time, I accepted both truths. That evening, Jennifer came to see me again, but this time, she wasn't angry. She looked exhausted, broken, almost fragile. "I know you found out," she said quietly, her voice trembling. She told me everything: how she discovered the adoption at 19, how she searched for her biological mother, how she learned her mother died years earlier, how she blames me for everything. "I thought you stole my life," she whispered. We spoke honestly for the first time. No accusations, no manipulation, only truth. I told her I never knew, that I loved her from the moment I held her, that she was always my daughter, always. But trust once broken cannot be restored with words alone. Years of damage cannot disappear in one conversation. Jennifer began to cry, not the dramatic tears of before, real tears, raw, uncontrolled. "I don't know how to love you," she admitted. Those words hurt more than anything else, because they revealed the deepest tragedy, not hatred, emptiness. That night, something inside me changed forever. I stopped trying to fix the past, stopped trying to force love, stopped needing to be needed. Instead, I chose peace, boundaries, self-respect, purpose. I would help her only if she chose accountability, but my life would no longer depend on her acceptance. The next morning, I finalized plans for my foundation, a center supporting abandoned elderly people, legal protection, housing assistance, emotional care, a family for those left behind. My wealth would serve compassion, not entitlement, purpose, not control. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Just when I believed we had reached the end, a new crisis emerged, a devastating financial collapse. Jennifer and Mark lost everything, their house, their savings, their reputation. And once again, she came to my door. But this time, her request would force my most difficult decision yet. Before we continue, sometimes life gives us one final test, not of strength, not of intelligence, but of the heart. And the choice I faced next would define the legacy of my entire life. 3 weeks after our last conversation, the news spread quickly. Mark's business collapsed overnight. Fraud investigations, debt collectors, legal notices, frozen accounts. Their perfect life shattered in days. The same luxury house where I was once humiliated was now under bank seizure, their cars repossessed, their reputation destroyed. Karma had arrived, but it did not bring me joy, only silence. One cold night, there was a knock at my door, soft, hesitant, almost ashamed. When I opened it, Jennifer stood there. No designer clothes, no confidence, no pride, just fear. And behind her, 2 small children, my grandchildren. Her voice trembled. "We have nowhere to go." For a moment, I saw not the woman who betrayed me, but a frightened child, and 2 innocent lives caught in consequences they never chose. My heart pulled in 2 directions, justice and compassion. If I helped her, would she learn nothing? Would history repeat itself? Would I again be used? If I refused, would I become the very cruelty she once showed me? Would innocent children suffer? Revenge is simple. Mercy is complicated. I asked them to wait outside. Then I sat alone in silence. I remembered Thanksgiving, her words, her humiliation, her rejection. But I also remembered holding her as a baby, teaching her to walk, reading her stories at night, years of love. Pain and love existed together. Both demanded a decision. I opened the door again, but my answer was not emotional. It was firm, clear, unbreakable. "You may stay," I said, "but under my conditions." Jennifer looked shocked, relieved, terrified. My rules were simple. She would attend therapy. She would work and rebuild her life independently. She would respect my home and boundaries. She would sign legal protection ensuring my foundation remained untouched. Any manipulation, she leaves immediately. This was not rescue. This was accountability. For the first time in her life, Jennifer agreed without argument. No pride, no excuses. Only tears. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. "No," I replied calmly, "but growth begins when we accept truth." Life inside my home changed, slowly, quietly. Jennifer worked small jobs. She attended therapy sessions. She avoided confrontation. She tried. The grandchildren filled the house with laughter. Their innocence healed wounds words never could. But trust remained fragile. 6 months passed, then 8, then 1 year. Jennifer transformed gradually. She became calmer, more respectful, more honest. But the past never fully disappeared. Scars remained, memories remained, boundaries remained, and that was necessary. During this time, my elderly care foundation finally opened, a safe home for abandoned seniors, a place of dignity, a place of belonging. The opening ceremony was simple, but powerful. Jennifer attended quietly, standing at the back, watching, learning. For the first time, she saw the purpose of my choices. After the ceremony, Jennifer asked to speak, her voice shaking. Before staff, residents, guests, she apologized publicly for her behavior, for her greed, for her cruelty, for her failure as a daughter. The room was silent. Some cried. I said nothing. Forgiveness is not declared, it is lived. That night, I realized something important. Forgiveness does not erase history. Love does not remove boundaries. Healing does not require forgetting. True peace is balance. Just when everything seemed stable, a letter arrived, unexpected, urgent, from a medical institution. Jennifer's biological history revealed a serious hereditary illness, one that could affect her children, one that demanded immediate treatment, one that demanded a decision involving my fortune again. And once more, I stood at the crossroads between love and protection. Life had already tested my patience, my dignity, my strength. But now, it was testing my heart one final time. The letter from the hospital confirmed everything. Jennifer carried a rare hereditary illness. Without treatment, her children could inherit it. Their future depended on immediate medical care, and the cost was enormous. Doctors explained the options clearly: advanced treatment, long-term care, special monitoring for the children. The total cost could consume a large portion of my wealth, the same wealth I protected so carefully, the same fortune that once caused so much betrayal. Again, I faced the same question. Was my money meant to protect me or to protect my family? That night, I sat alone in my garden, the same garden where I had once planned my silent revenge, the same place where my strength was reborn. I asked myself one question. What is the purpose of justice if it destroys compassion? I had already proven my strength. I had already secured my dignity. I had already rebuilt my life. Now, it was time to decide what kind of legacy I would leave. The final decision. The next morning, I called Jennifer and the children into the living room. They looked afraid, uncertain, waiting. I spoke calmly. I will pay for the treatment. Jennifer broke down immediately, but I raised my hand gently. There was more. This is not forgiveness for the past, I said. This is protection for the future. My support came with one final condition. I told her, you will dedicate part of your life helping others. You will serve in the foundation. You will help abandoned parents who were once treated as I was. Not punishment, not control, purpose. Pain must create meaning, or it becomes useless. Jennifer accepted without hesitation, and for the first time, her gratitude felt genuine. Treatment began immediately. Months of hospital visits, long nights, fear, hope, waiting. I stayed beside her, not as a victim, not as a savior, but as a mother. The children were tested. They were safe, healthy, free from the illness. That day, we all cried. Years passed. Life transformed in ways I never imagined. Jennifer became one of the most dedicated workers in my foundation. She cared for elderly residents, listened to their stories, served them with patience. People who once judged her now respected her, because change, when real, cannot be hidden. My house was no longer a place of conflict. It became a home filled with peace, laughter of grandchildren, evening tea conversations, quiet understanding. Trust returned slowly, not fully, but honestly, and honesty is stronger than illusion. What I learned about revenge. Looking back, my greatest revenge was never punishment, it was growth. I did not destroy my daughter, I transformed the pain she caused into purpose. I built something greater than anger. Because true victory is not making others suffer, it is refusing to become bitter. My foundation expanded across cities. Thousands of abandoned parents found dignity, families reunited, lives restored. My story was no longer about betrayal. It became a story about second chances. And that was my true legacy. Final message. If you are ever betrayed, remember this. You can choose revenge that destroys or revenge that transforms. You can choose anger or you can choose power. And real power is peace. If this story touched your heart, comment respect for grandma, like the video, and subscribe for more powerful life stories.